Hiya, and welcome back to No More Future, the game that teaches us that the best way to deal with something is to just beat the shit out of the person that's causing the thing. Anyways, let's just hop right in. The laboratory before you is unlike any other place you've seen in this building yet. Spacious, bright, orderly, a far cry from Mary's office for sure. Not to mention all the wicked contraptions lurking in every corner of the room, as well as many scientists eagerly working on them. Are we seriously having network issues? Seriously, what the fuck? The engineer's chatting creates a pleasant background noise for you to lose yourself in spite of your inability to comprehend most of it. You didn't think you'd ever feel this way, but this truly seems like a place you could come and work at every day of your life. You spend an eternity gazing from one end of the room to the next, enthralled with everything you see, before Mary interrupts your thoughts once again. So, enjoying the view? I am. I've never seen this place before. How come you never showed it to me earlier? Well, what with you being a nervous wreck during your first few weeks post-transition, I thought bringing you to a place full of half-finished synthetic bodies might have been too... uncanny. Yeah. The Siamese is definitely right about that. You couldn't recall those days fondly even if they paid you to do so. Learning that your family had definitely cut ties with you, that they had abandoned you due to your fate without so much as saying goodbye. It had you question whether there was even any point to your decision to continue on as a synthetic for quite a while. But you're beyond those days now, for the most part. Or at least you try to be. So, I take it this is some sort of testing grounds for synthetic parts? You'd already gathered that much upon seeing all the incomplete android vessels lying around earlier, but you might as well inquire further about it. You got that right. This is where my team experiments on new and old synthetic designs in an effort to create the best possible experience for you and all the people that'll come after you. I see. So all these people here are part of your team? All of them and so many more. I coordinate lots of different teams all over the world. These people are just the closest to home. All over the world? Just how many scientists are working under you exactly? The Siamese starts tapping the tip of her chin repeatedly with her index finger, seemingly unsure. Probably somewhere in the 5 figures if I had to guess. I couldn't keep track of all of them if I tried. Maybe you should ask one of the 1,000-something managers I oversee. 1,000? That many? Hey, the papers might call me the greatest mind of our generation, but even I couldn't pull all of this off on my own. Every great invention in history wasn't born of just one man's work. It was also the fruit of their collaborators, their friends, their family, their teachers. The cat shifts her gaze to the rest of the room, a glint of pride in her eyes as she does so. Honestly, I could have never gotten this far into this project without all these people backing me up. I owe them a lot for sticking with me through thick and thin. And so does the human race, even if they aren't ready to realize it yet. Wow. I've never heard anyone praise their staff like that before. I'll take that as a compliment. Now, do you want to stand here all day, or would you rather give some of this stuff a closer look? You'd love to take the woman up on her offer, but you're a little hesitant to oblige. You sure? I wouldn't want to intrude or anything. Oh, don't be scared, Isaac. You're among friends now. Here, let me present to you some of my colleagues. Just like that, the cat has you swinging from one end of the room to the next, greeting all sorts of people as you go. You lose track of all their names pretty quickly, much to your chagrin, though their friendliness does strike you as rather genuine. Most of the people you see are pretty young, with the occasional old fogey or two greeting you just as warmly as the rest. It's quite a peppy crew, all things considered. Not to mention, quite the sophisticated one. You spot a couple people wearing some suspicious-looking visors on their heads, displaying emotes and messages in a manner similar to the one you use to communicate yourself. It's one startling coincidence for sure. As soon as you have a moment to yourself, you immediately inquire about it to Mary, hoping that she can shed some light on the topic. What's up with all this equipment your colleagues are wearing, if I may ask? Siamese seems delighted to hear you ask about that. Oh, those? There's some next-gen augmented reality tech we're testing out. AR glasses have always been popular with gamers, but they've also proven useful to workers, scientists, and pretty much anyone who needed the power of an advanced computer wherever they want. All you need to do is voice a command or move your eyes a certain way, and the AI would take care of it as best as it could. However, that technology has its limits. For example, a user could require a certain thing, but fail to explain it to the AI correctly, or maybe there simply aren't good enough words to explain what they're thinking to begin with. You're saying that these visors are better than that? Yup, those visors aren't just masks you can wear or take off as you wish. They're an extension of their user's muzzle, with a direct neural link to their brain. Mind and matter, brain and computer, operating together to create an entirely unique way of thinking and seeing the world. Could you imagine that? You're so caught up in processing the scientist's bedazzling explanation you almost fail to pick up what she's really trying to tell you with that sneaky joke at the end. I don't need to imagine it. That's the same technology I'm using too. Again, the feline smile turns into an impressed and delighted smirk. Very good. You're right about that, of course. Your ability to freely access a computer through your thoughts alone is almost as recent a discovery as synthetics themselves. Of course, we had some time to try it out on biological humans before handing it over to you. You shouldn't run into anywhere near as many problems with it as we did. All of a sudden, you don't like the sound of that. What problems are you referring to exactly? Picking up on the worry in your voice, Mary is quick to explain herself before you can interpret things the wrong way once more. Oh, you know, small bugs, technical glitches, things of the sort. I'll admit that there are tons of ways that technology that interfaces directly with your brain could go poorly, but we did our best to limit the damage it could cause in the worst case scenario. And you can bet that we're working on making it even safer and more stable to this day, because we care. After that brief conversation, Mary continues her tour of the place with you in tow, ever more curious of your surroundings. The idea of your software crashing and burning from within your brain still has you a little on edge, but you trust Mary that they've already prevented the worst from occurring. It's definitely better than believing the alternative. After that, you spend some more time gazing at schematics you can't comprehend and talking to people you don't know. It's easy to let your eyes wander in a place like this, and spend ages trying to notice every little detail. Including a series of synthetic vessels hanging on a nearby wall as though they were clothes. Among the various inactive prototypes, you immediately recognize an opossum, a shark, a platypus, and even some more complex designs that don't appear to resemble anything at all. Mary is quick to notice your interest. As you can see, we have a ton of different designs for synthetic bodies. Most of the early prototypes were reptilian or amphibian because of their simplicity, but we're now dabbling in mammals, fishes, insects, and so much more. All of these bodies look so strong, so refined, it's actually quite marveling to look at. It's like staring at an art gallery in a way. At the same time, it's almost a little creepy. It's like staring at a row of dead bodies, even though these ones were never alive in the first place. You can almost see yourself right in the middle of them, staring at the rest of the room from your spot on the wall, silent but begging to scream. God, I need to stop thinking stuff like that. I have enough reasons to be paranoid all the time as it is. You try to delete that dreadful image you conjured up from your thoughts as you turn to face the ever-cheerful feline once again. I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty impressive. I remember when we were talking about synthetics back when we first met, and you wondered how cool it'd be to choose your own body down to the most minute details. It's nice to see you weren't just talking out of your ass back then. Ha! After all this time, you think I'm still a con artist or something? No, of course not. Relax, I'm just messing with you. I know you don't think that. What I meant to say is that I'm ambitious, but never in over my head. I don't sell dreams I can't make true. And when I shared my dream of a world where everyone can choose what kind of person they want to be, well, I meant every word of it. Thinking back to when you first met Mary, you didn't have a lot of time to choose what your future self would look like before your condition worsened. Had you been presented with all these options and were given a little more time back then, would you have chosen differently? All in all, you can't feel too bad about that. Your current body already suits your needs quite nicely, and there's really nothing more you could ask for. You don't plan on replacing it anytime soon. Though, with such a long life in front of you, You don't doubt the possibility of eventually changing your mind. What's this? Your eyes are drawn to a strange polygonal object lying on a table next to you. Its surface is as black as the night sky itself, hiding its contents from you no matter how hard you focus. It's about the size of a large potato and weighs almost like one too, and yet feels even sturdier than the glass around Mary's own lava lamp. Oh, that right there is a synthetic brain. A black box. You give the object a second look, surprised by the unforeseen revelation. The thought of this being a brain never once crossed your mind. Is this truly what yours currently looks like? A black box, you say? Like the ones used on planes and stuff? Not exactly. Generally speaking, a black box is a system that produces certain outputs in response to certain inputs. So, a computer? Pretty much, yes, except that with a black box, you can't inspect its inner workings unless you pry it open. When it comes to synthetic brains, of course, we use that term very liberally. We just chose it because it sounded cool. Of course they did. You don't even need to ask Mary you don't even need to ask whether Mary had something to do with it to know it's true. Regardless, this all sounds very interesting. You never thought something this complex could be housed within something so small. So how does it work then? First, we program the black box to work exactly the way a regular brain would. Then we install all the additional hardware necessary to house the soul that makes you, you. Once the soul has been installed into the black box as a result of the transition, it automatically seals itself shut. I see. And you can't reopen it afterwards? Simply put, no. After it's been sealed shut, altering the black box's programming becomes entirely impossible, and no additional information can ever be sent to it. This is to prevent tampering that could destroy the soul of the individual it houses, and to null the risk of viruses that could similarly wreak havoc on your systems. That's rather impressive, you have to admit. If Mary's words can be believed at face value, this would put all your worries about your memories being replaced or corrupted to rest. Even so, you still have your reservations about this technology, some things that are a little hard for you to wrap your head around. Such as how in the world your soul is supposed to fit into a device this small for starters. You don't doubt that microchips have only grown more powerful since their humble beginnings 2 centuries prior, and that their small size can be deceiving. But to think that something this inconspicuous could house your entire being so easily? Then again, you could have said the same of your original organic brain. Nevertheless, though this does help clear up some thoughts for you, there's still a few things about this device that you don't quite understand. So hold on. If you can't send any more information to the black box, how do I react to external stimuli? How can I see what goes on in the world, hear what you're saying to me right now, and so on? You see, there are a series of subroutines that govern your primary senses that send information to a white box right next to your brain. That's how you gather information on the world around you. Thanks to its advanced tech, the black box can view this information without the need of downloading it, then proceeds to recreate it using the tools at its disposal. It takes you a while to understand what the Siamese means by that, but when you do, the realization hits you like a literal truck. Are you misinterpreting things again, or does she truly mean what you think she means? So wait, are you saying that when I eat a box of cereal, I'm not actually tasting the food? That my brain just simulates the taste based on the information my software gathered? Yep, that's how it works right now. It's hardly ideal, but this was the best compromise between allowing you to experience the world as freely as possible and keeping you safe from any ill-intentioned hacker. You understand where the cat is coming from, but this is downright insanity. You were aware that the transition from human to synthetic wasn't complete, that some things were simply impossible to retain from one body to the next. But losing your senses, your very ability to perceive the world around you, replaced by software that merely mimics what you're supposed to feel? You might be able to replicate its original counterparts to perfection, but it's still just that, a replica. And that thought is probably the most depressing you've had in a while. But then, what's the point of doing anything if I can just simulate it in my head? Why go through all the trouble of creating a synthetic body for me to use when everything I can feel through it is nothing but a lie? Come on, Isaac, I never said what you're feeling right now is fake. Even before you transitioned, your body interpreted the world around it with a certain degree of imperfection, and you didn't even suffer from color blindness or similar illnesses. All this software does is try to relay information about your surroundings in a way that you can understand. Is that truly so bad? You try to come up with a rebuttal to Mary's explanation, but aside from instinctual cries about the purity of your old form, you cannot think of anything else. I guess I can see what you mean. Plus, if this technology is supposed to feel different from how I used to perceive things before, I honestly can't tell. It might be more difficult to adjust to than I thought, but maybe it's not as bad as I imagined it to be either. Precisely. I knew you'd agree with me. Besides, to answer something else you said earlier, this isn't about simulating human life. It's about continuing it, picking up from where we left off. And a mind without a body, a reward separated from the experience that birthed it, would grow tiring very quickly. That much you can agree with quite easily. Experience isn't something that can be replicated easily, even with all this advanced technology. It's quite ironic, all things considered. You only realized how important living is after throwing your old life away. But enough with all these depressing thoughts. You've let them sour this learning experience with Mary for long enough. Anyway, like I said, we're still experimenting with all this stuff to this day. There's no telling how these gadgets might evolve in 10, 100, 1,000 years. Maybe by the time we've all embraced synthetics, we'll have improved our ability to recreate the human experience more than we can even fathom. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Though I guess I can't complain either way. What you've got going on right now is already pretty cool. I'm glad you think that. Now follow me. There's still a few things I'd like to show you. You spend some more time hanging around with Mary, taking note of all the little things you bear witness to in this workshop of wonders. Some things are a little too complicated for you to understand, but Mary always tries her best to keep it simple for you. It's almost like going back to school in a way. Though you're pretty sure that your classes have never been this fun before. Once Mary has finished talking with all the colleagues she needed to and shown you all the things you were curious about, she invites you over to a more secluded part of the laboratory in the far back. A somewhat petite rest area away from the chaos of the scientists and of the machines they're working on. It's not anything to write home about, but at the very least it provides a comfortable seat for your weary body and mind. Mary quietly grabs a cardboard-like cup of water from the dispenser and then lets herself fall in a chair opposite your own, looking rather pleased with herself. So, enjoyed the tour so far? Can't say I haven't. It was a bit short of becoming a lecture at times, but overall I'm thankful for all the things you showed me today. Hey, you're the one who was asking all those questions. Don't blame me for giving you an answer when you're the one who wanted them. You can't help but chortle at the Siamese's remarks. All in all, you really can't be mad at her for delivering some answers after all the time you spent clamoring for them. That said, I still don't know why you decided to bring me here today all of a sudden. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time here so far and all, but did you really invite me over just to show me all this stuff? Of course not. I had my reasons. Those being... The woman takes a while to formulate her answer, her playful tone suddenly turning a little more serious. Well, you already know the first reason. I just thought it was about time I showed you more of the synthetic project, and the technology that supports it. After all the nonsense that Bradbury asshole likely spouted at you in my absence yesterday, I figured you might cherish an opportunity to really see what we're doing here. Thoughts of your time spent enduring that man's wicked comments resurface in your mind, immediately souring your mood. He really did make so many horrible remarks that you had no reply to, most of which you've managed to temporarily suppress, mind you, but it was pretty exhausting to endure nonetheless. Who knows just how low you could have fallen had your self-control been just a little less strong. You definitely appreciate Mary's attempt to prevent this from ever happening again. Fair point. I suppose I was in dire need of some clarifications. He said all sorts of things yesterday, that my soul might be fake, that my memories might belong to someone else, that there's no way a soul could be ported over to an android body to begin with. Mary rolls her eyes to the ceiling so fast it makes the mag train look like a kid's ride. Not only that, but the contempt on her face is now impossible not to notice. Yup, I figured he'd say shit like that. God, what an asshole. Again, I'm sorry you had to endure that. I really need to stop getting to you so late. It's fine, he didn't hurt me or anything. Not like he didn't try, you barely whisper under your breath. He just really confused me. All that talk about you not being human, about Pandora lying to you, about something sinister going on behind the scenes. A load of garbage as far as you can tell, but a worrisome one nonetheless. Is there any truth to what he said? Any chance he might have a point? Mary shakes her head even quicker than she rolled her eyes, a deeply unsettled look on her face. Look, all I'm going to say is there's a reason why I'm a professional researcher and he's a professional nuisance. All that man's got are his crackpot conspiracy theories and a penchant for intruding in other people's business. And Holmes. Your friend seems to regard Bradbury rather poorly, to put it gently, and you can't exactly blame her either. That guy's a total jerk, and you don't need a PhD to realize that. I assume that's another reason why you brought me here today? The woman takes a brief break from her huffing and puffing to earnestly smile at you once again. I figured you might have wanted some answers about that guy and his FBI cronies at some point. Maybe someplace safe to talk about it without that rabid dog showing up to mock you midway through. And like I said earlier, you're among friends here. I see. And speaking of friends... Oh, hi, Nats. Hey, guys. How are you doing? Before either of you could notice her approaching, Natalie's already beaming at both of you from behind Mary's chair, a wide smile on her earnest face. Mary practically jumped out of her seat at her junior's appearance, every hair on her body flaring up at once as she did so. You don't think you've seen her this puffy before, truth be told. Well, if I didn't die of a heart attack now, I guess I never will. Oh dear, I didn't scare you that bad, did I? Gosh, why does this always happen? You can't help but laugh at the quaint spectacle before you, even if it is a little mean-spirited. Ooh, number 1! I did not get that set up. Fuck, that pencil's broken. Where's the non-broken? Here we go, got a non-broken pencil. Where's it? Here we go. Ooh, count. Ooh, number 1. There we go. Maybe it's because you've had to endure Natalie's abrupt entrances more often than you could count in the past days, but you have to admit, it is pretty funny when it happens to others. Anyway, I'm sorry for scaring you guys. I swear, I was just trying to say hi. That's alright, Nats. You didn't scare me. Speak for yourself. That was at least 2 of my 9 lives gone. The Siamese words, which he seems to have shared in jest, are nonetheless enough to thoroughly confuse you. 9 lives? Does this have to do with synthetic project or something? The cat laughs off your questions with a knowing smile on her face. Of course not. I'm very much still human, thank you. It's just an old saying that was popular back in my days. You wouldn't get it. Right. So, age-related irony is fair game with her. That's good to know, at least. It means you can already start planning your vengeance over her basically calling you a kid, and by God will it be sweet. As soon as you figure out just how old the scientist really is. Regardless, what brings you here, Nats? I thought you were so busy handling those files I sent you earlier. Actually, I just finished taking care of those. It wasn't that complicated, really. Then I heard from someone that Isaac had come to visit, so I decided to come see you. Wow, that's impressive. I was pretty sure you'd need more time to sort through all that data. You sure you're not skimping out on work or something? You're pretty sure that Mary's messing around as usual. But that doesn't stop Natalie from taking her words seriously nevertheless. No, of course not. You know I always give 100% whenever I'm working on something. I'm just really fast like that, I swear. Even you have to admit that Natalie has always seemed like a very dependable girl. She has always addressed your every issue as soon as it came up to the best of her ability, and never left you wanting for a better assistant. You don't find it difficult to believe that she's equally invaluable to Mary as an assistant as well. So wait, how come you're working today? I thought you were taking the day off. Oh no, I come to work on Saturdays as well. I just can't stay away from this place. Huh. I see. Is that why you didn't call me this morning? Upon hearing your innocent question, Natalie quite literally falls from the clouds. Oh my gosh, did I really forget about calling you again? I know I was forgetting something. Gosh, I'm such a... The Labrador's self-deprecating words are interrupted by her boss, who dismisses her faults with a smile. Relax, Snats. It's the weekend. Isaac was just curious is all. Besides, he's not even bummed out about it. Isn't that right? The scientist gives you a knowing look, to which you reply with a simple nod. It's true. I was just a little surprised is all. You're fine, Nats. The canine tries to buy into your reassuring words, but it's clear that she's having a bit of trouble getting over her embarrassment. You decide to soften the mood with a joke or two, to try and ease her up. So, you come to work even on weekends? Is that out of your own free will, or... It's not that hard to believe, is it? Mary laughs off her junior's remarks, as well as your own incredulity. Incredulity? I assure you that both her and the rest of my colleagues here would gladly come back on Sunday as well, if only their body would allow them. But alas, everyone needs some rest every once in a while. Wow, you really love your work that much? Of course, I can't think of anything more exciting than this, honestly. You heard her. I assure you, few among my scientists and engineers would even refer to what they're doing here as working. This isn't just any kind of job, you see. We're creating synthetics here, creating the future of humanity. This isn't something you do for money or fame or any sense of personal accomplishments. This is something we do because it's right, because everyone deserves to bear the fruits of our work. We're changing humanity for the better here, one innovation at a time, and knowing that is enough to bring us back to work time and time again. But I have to admit, the extras I make from overtime are pretty nice. As much as Mary likes to jest and mess around, aside from her fun comment at the end, this time she felt more honest than ever. You never thought that she or the rest of her staff would view this project in such a positive light. You already knew that everyone here cares deeply about the success of this technology, but you didn't expect their commitment to this job to be this strong. The future of humanity. That's what these people downstairs were saying too. Kind of puts your whole existence right now into perspective, truth be told. And it also helps you view Mary and her team in a new, much brighter light than ever before. Anyway, I think I bothered you guys for long enough. I'm sure you were having an important discussion before I interrupted you. Natalie interjects so loudly and unexpectedly you almost got startled yourself. You'd almost forgotten you were doing something important before Natalie arrived. It just goes to show how invested you sometimes get in your own thoughts. Oh, don't worry. We hadn't actually started yet. Mary was just about to explain to me what the whole deal with the FBI was, since they came to visit me yesterday and all. Ooh, that sounds important, alright. Well then, The cat gently lays her hand on the canine's thigh before the latter can leave, effectively stopping her in her tracks somehow. Actually, why don't you join us for this conversation, Nats? I figured you might be interested, given that this does involve Isaac here and all. Mary briefly turns to face you. You don't mind, do you, Isaac? Of course not. The more the merrier. You turn to look at your friend who's been awkwardly standing behind her boss ever since the beginning of this conversation. The Labrador appears a little hesitant, but also quite intrigued by the offer. Well, I was feeling a little bummed out the other day when Isaac was asking me all that stuff and I couldn't answer. Sure, I'll stay for the lecture. With that said, the young lady finally lets herself fall on top of one of the sturdy chairs, eager to listen to Mary's explanation. She almost feels like a college student, bent forward with her chest and arms, as if trying to listen as hard as she can. It's kind of cute in a way, you have to admit. Even her boss is looking at her with a delighted smirk on her face. With everyone set, you decided to start the conversation yourself so as to properly break the ice. Well then, I guess I might as well begin by asking, just what in the world does the FBI want from me? The cat lady makes as if to answer your question, but can ultimately do nothing but shake her head in defeat. I honestly can't say. They're secretive like that, those idiots. But I assure you, them being a nuisance is nothing new. They have an entire department dedicated to breathing down Pandora's neck. For real? An entire department? You definitely hadn't heard of that before. Does the Bureau create specialized teams like that often, or is Pandora a special case? Imagine if they had an entire department dedicated solely to tracking synthetics like you. No, you definitely don't want to imagine that. Yep. They're persistent like that. Double checking our financial statements, vetting all our personnel, getting involved in things they shouldn't, as they always do. And you can guess who's the head of that department? Bradbury. You suppose that explains why he had all those agents, and even a synthetic, following his orders. Even so, you never could have imagined he'd turn out to be the head of a department of the FBI, much less one focused exclusively on Pandora. What sort of company are they to warrant special attention from the likes of him? Well, knowing their past, you can probably guess the reasons behind that. Still, why is he so interested in the synthetics project? In me? No clue. They've never been this interested in something we made before, and I've been here for a long time. A long time? Sounds a little ambiguous, even by Mary's standards. Is that on purpose? How long are we talking, to be exact? About 40 years, give or take. 40 years? Just how old are you exactly? Now, Isaac, is that really a question you should be asking a lady? A wave of shame suddenly washes over your face as you realize how far you've taken your curiosity. You really ought to control yourself better than this. However, right as you're about to drop this little tangent entirely, she's 64 if you're really wondering. There is no way. There is no fucking way that she's 64. That is some Kim Kardashian level bullshit. That is some Kim Kardashian bullshit. She is not 64. I'm serious. Does she get like Botox or something? Is that how humans work? Do they just age slowly like actual animals? Like what the fuck? Natalie, I never said you could say that. The Siamese appears to be a little embarrassed over the brazen Labrador's words, whereas you're so busy trying to accept what you now know as fact. You had a clue or two that Mary was a little advanced with her years, but 64? That's way older than you thought she'd be. I thought she was in her 40s. Like, mid-40s at the latest. I genuinely thought she was like 44, 45, 46. But 64! How in the hell? I've got to admit, I've never seen someone in her 60s look as youthful as you do. In spite of the awkwardness that washed over her face, Mary struggles to reply to your comment with a smile. Also, I forgot to say, hiya. What can I say? The miracles of modern plastic surgery. This is some Kim Kardashian level bullshit. Or just Kardashian level bullshit in general. It's not quite the same as literally choosing your body from scratch. But with enough money and a competent doctor, it's almost a perfect substitute. There's no way in fuck she's in her 60s. She says that, but I don't believe her. I bet she's a sorceress who cast a spell of infinite youth on herself. A sorceress? Isn't that a little unscientific coming from a researcher like her? Ha! I suppose that'd explain our successes with synthetics as well, wouldn't it? But let's take a break with all the jokes. We were supposed to be talking about the FBI. Wait a minute, so she's been working there for 40 years. She started when she was 26. Damn. Oh, right. Sorry. The Siamese sighs and shakes her head as she returns to what she was saying earlier, a surprisingly pleased smile on her face in spite of the slight embarrassment she had to endure. Anyway, like I previously said, those jerks are a well-known thorn in our sides. They've been trying to get a hold of our synthetics ever since our first successful transition. With little success. I guess it makes sense. All the others live in secluded and highly secure facilities across the globe, so I imagine that it was easy to drive them away at every turn. Just how much does he get paid now? I want to know. Hang on. Okay, so if she's working on robots, and with everything she's doing, she's technically a computer scientist. I guess. How much? Hang on. Average salary of computer scientist. Okay, so we also got to adjust it for inflation, which, okay, how many digits are here? Okay, so it says here that a computer scientist makes roughly $111,563 per year in the United States. Now, we might want to factor in for inflation, and since she's the head of a project and heads typically get paid more, she could be damn well making millions, possibly 100 millions, maybe billions. Who the fuck knows? Anyways, which I guess explains why he's targeting me in particular. Now it's your turn to feel ashamed over being unable to figure that out. In hindsight, it should have been obvious. Then again, it could also be because of you beating those guys up the other day. That might have been enough to land you on his radar, assuming that Jasper was right about him being aware of that. Right. With your choice to resume living as a civilian, no wonder Bradbury's focusing all his efforts onto you. Whatever they're meant for. You remember him trying to recruit you near the end of his speech, to have you act as a double agent on his behalf, investigating Pandora in search of something. He definitely couldn't have chosen a worse method of going about doing that for sure. Who in the world would assert his doubt in someone else's humanity before trying to convince them to work for him? Still, it might just be the conspiracy theorist lurking in you, but you don't feel comfortable sharing this information with Mary yet. If there's a chance, however minuscule, that Pandora truly is hiding something, you should try to keep your cards hidden for the time being. Even if that means keeping things hidden from your friends. Alright, so I guess that explains why Bradbury's after me. But what about that other synthetic that was with him the other day? The other synthetic? Yeah, the other one. If I recall correctly, Bradbury called that one Harlan. What a creep that guy was. Always silent, staring at you with those sharp eyes of his. Like a guard dog trained to maul any trespassers on sight. Even if the trespasser was Bradbury and his posse. How far in the future? I think we're roughly like 200 years in the future. Like 200 years, give or take. Mary seems a little unsure about how to approach her question once again, seemingly clueless as to where to begin. Like Natalie said, keeping Bradbury off her synthetics has been easy so far, for the most part, especially when he actually believed our excuses. But buying his lenience had a price. Okay. A price? Yeah. One day, Bradbury showed up with an offer. He let us continue our experiments on synthetics with minimal supervision for the time being, in exchange for a favor on our behalf. A favor? Yep, he wanted a synthetic of his own, and he was very meticulous with the details. He wanted a cutting-edge chassis, add-ons fresh out of the oven, and even some custom mods to the black box. It's like he showed up with a straight-up grocery list. I had to think about it for a while, but eventually I had to accept. And that's how Harlan was born. An intriguing origin story, if nothing else. Then again, you already had a feeling that Harlan was not just another run-of-the-mill synthetic. If Bradbury insisted that Mary turn him into an android in order for her to continue her duties undisturbed, he must have been a very important individual to the St. Bernard. But just who in the world was he? You ask your friend for some clarifications only to be met with a disappointed sigh of defeat. I really don't know. I only saw him, or what I assumed to be him, on the day of the actual transition. He was fairly old, maybe in his 40s or 50s, though his body was so battered by gunshot wounds and scars I could hardly tell. He showed up with his own medical entourage, keeping him alive by any means necessary until the procedure was complete. The guy himself was out cold. Sounds like he had it even worse than you did. Not even you needed that sort of help on the days leading up to the procedure. And by the time your condition worsened, there was hardly anything anyone could do to help. Then again, it's also possible that the extra medics were there just because he or Bradbury had the money to afford them. Did he ever say anything, even post-transition? Nope, though he definitely can speak if you're wondering about that. I know that muzzle design is a little ambiguous. We were still testing things out back then. Oh, that sounds cool. I wasn't around back then, so I never got to see what old synthetics used to look like. You've got to show me some prototypes one of these days. As much as you share Natalie's enthusiasm on the topic, your mind's still too busy thinking about Harlan to worry about old synthetic body parts. So, how long ago did this happen? I'd say about 6 months ago. That long? What in the world has he been up to in the meantime? Again, no clue. I wish I could tell you more about this, but sadly that's all I know. The guy's been around Bradbury ever since he reawakened, though you can hardly tell he's there half the time, and Bradbury himself never talks about him either. The St. Bernard did seem a little hesitant to talk about Harlan during the brief time you met him. Though why that would be, you can't say. You doubt that it's just an effort to improve their chances at intimidating you. There must be some reason behind all this secrecy. That's alright. That's already more info than I had yesterday. I appreciate you being as thorough as you could, and not hiding anything from me. The Siamese looks away from you for a moment, clearly still a little embarrassed from her conversation with you yesterday. Right. Either way, I don't know how much we can keep Bradbury away from you. Knowing the FBI, they'll just keep fabricating reasons to come check up on you or whatever until they're pleased. But you're going to make it as hard as possible for them to do so, I take it. You can bet on that, Isaac. We are not letting those goons get their way with you. Not a chance. We'll find a way to stop them from messing around with you eventually. I promise. And I'll do my best too. Last time you had to deal with that guy on your own, but the next time he shows up, I'll be there to give him a piece of my mind. The two girls' confident look and dead certain words do wonders to reassure you, in spite of how uncertain you still feel about this problem. Okay. 2.9 million. Chances are cost of living also went down. Which means that... yeah, she's doing really well. Bradbury, Harlan, the FBI, you definitely didn't account for them being involved when you chose to become a synthetic. There's still so much you don't know about them. You feel as though you understand things a little better now thanks to their help. You'd certainly feel relieved. If only something else didn't happen since yesterday morning to inspire doubts and curiosity in you. Hang on a minute. She does not have as much money as Elon Musk, but she has more money than Kim Kardashian. Natalie is quick to notice a strange look in your eyes as you turned away from them. What's wrong, Isaac? Is something else bothering you? No, No point in hiding it, you suppose. The encounter with that strange entity from earlier in the day still plays over and over in the back of your mind, demanding your attention. You still don't know anything about that monster, about what it is and what it can do. Maybe you should ask Mary about it, now that you have a chance. Well, actually, yeah. Can I ask you something completely unrelated? Mary raised an eyebrow at your query, a little surprised by the look on your face as you turned towards her. Sure, I'm all ears. Right, well, you briefly pondered just how much you should share about what happened with your friends. Opening up with, I saw a weird shadow demon on the train today, and that really freaked me out, might not be the best way to approach this topic. You decide to be a little more vague, so as to not give the Siamese or the Labrador any weird ideas about you. What do you know about abilities? The canine's eyes widen to disproportionate amounts as she tries to process your question, and Mary's aren't too far behind. You didn't expect this sort of sudden change from such a simple question, so you try to ask the two of them if they're alright. Only for your handler to swiftly beat you to the punch. Hold on, don't tell me. You developed an ability? The look in her eyes. Okay. The way she's smiling, her entire face is like excitement, but lowercase excitement. What? That is not what you were trying to convey at all. So much for not giving them any weird ideas. Look, I think you... Oh my gosh, that's so cool. We've been looking for something like that for... No, I never said that. Now it's shooketh in lowercase. I'm sorry, but all of Natalie's expressions are just lowercase. She just has a very lowercase expression face. See what I mean? All of her expressions thus far have all been lowercase. All of them. Like, okay, you have this lowercase happiness. That's actually, like, still lowercase smiling. Lowercase shooketh, and now lowercase disappointed. It takes a while for you to calm. It takes a while for you to calm your enthusiastic assistant down. Together with Mary's help. As disappointed as a feline is to hear your denial, at least she didn't react quite as badly as Natalie did. Good lord, Nats. Don't just assume things like that. Sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun so quickly. The girl seems thoroughly dejected in a way you've never seen her before. The look in her eyes is like that of a kid who's been looking forward to visiting a theme park for years only to be denied at the last minute. It's actually rather depressing to look at. You didn't mean to sour her mood so much. Either way, I'm sorry for giving you guys the wrong impression. Nonsense, Isaac. You're totally fine. Yeah, like you said, it's my fault for jumping to conclusions so fast. Which, again, sorry about that. I didn't mean to scare you. It's just that, well, we've been waiting for something like that to happen for so long, even I. You've been waiting for a synthetic with an ability to show up? The woman quietly nods at you too busy pondering to reply directly. Can synthetics even have abilities? Nobody knows, but it'd solve all our problems if they could. Solve all your problems? What do you mean? The woman hesitates to answer, once again lost in thought. It would prove that they're actually humans. You can't tell whether she's having trouble recalling the information she wants to share, or whether it is so complex that she has to figure out how to convey it properly. It's a pretty convoluted topic, truth be told. How about you answer, Natalie? The young Labrador is the first to be surprised by her boss's request, but she ultimately agrees with the beaming look on her face. Of course, you know you can always count on me for these kinds of things. Huh? So I take you're the resident expert on abilities or something? Pretty much, yeah. I studied them in depth at college for some extra credits, so I can give you a brief overview if you'd like me to. So she's somewhat knowledgeable on abilities. You can't say you're too surprised, truth be told. After all, she had to have learned how to answer your and your cousin's questions yesterday from somewhere. You have to admit, this is pretty intriguing. Go right on ahead. I'm curious to see where this goes. Awesome, and thanks. So, to answer your question... I will never be able to unsee it. So to answer your question, we should probably start from a century or so ago. A century? No, you have a feeling that you know exactly where the feline wants to land. Starting from all the way to the shift, I imagine. The young woman smiles before continuing her speech, evidently content with your foreknowledge of the topic. Yes, all the way there. I assume you learned about that in school at some point or another. Only the bare minimum. Our history curriculum slowed down considerably after the turn of the millennia. Or rather, sped up so fast it was impossible to learn anything. Mary can't help but reply to your comments in disgust. Ugh, of course it would. Public schooling's just the worst, isn't it? Look who's talking. You never even attended public school. Or any school for that matter. She didn't? But then how did Mary become this smart? Probably not something you should ask in the middle of an entirely separate conversation, you reason. And Mary appears to have figured that out as well. Ha! Touché. But I should shut up before I let this rant degenerate even further. I don't want to steal the spotlight from Natalie again. After some more huffing and pouting, as is typical of the extremely emotional Labrador, Natalie quickly returns to where she left off. Well, seeing as though you're a little unprepared, would you mind a quick refresher? Of course. The floor is yours. Awesome. I'm happy to see you so excited. Now, I know this is going to sound a little dramatic, but everything sort of happened in the span of less than a minute. Humans all over the world suddenly inexplicably mutated into human-animal hybrids, what we now refer to as humans. And when I say suddenly and inexplicably, I mean, I truly mean that. The incident is one of the greatest mysteries of our generation for a reason. I see. Do you know what caused it? Nobody does. There are quite a few theories as to how it originated, but none of them were ever proven. Some say a science project gone terribly haywire, others a virus of unknown origin. Some still believe in alien intervention, or in a natural phenomenon similar to global warming or an ice age. But these are all theories, and none of them were ever confirmed. You eagerly await further elucidations from your canine handler. But after some point spent in total silence, you realize at some point that this is literally it. That's it? That's all you can say about it? Not even you can hide the dissatisfaction in your voice right now. And neither can Natalie. Hey, if we knew anything more about what happened, it wouldn't be a mystery. I'm sorry if you were expecting more from me. If I knew anything else, I'd tell you. So it would seem, if this is truly it, then it's not too far from what you learned about the shift in class yourself. You always wondered what it must have felt like while growing up, to one day wake up and realize that your body's now totally different from before. Or maybe to realize that while going to school or to work. Or while looking at your mom or your dad or your child. It must have been a nightmare. You try to get back to your conversation with Natalie, hoping to leave those dark thoughts behind. So what does that have to do with abilities? Well, after the shift occurred, it didn't take long for abilities to pop up as well. The realization was slow, as this change only affected a very small amount of people. But once these users figured out that they had superpowers, the rest of the world soon found out as well. That's awful. That's awful. That too doesn't sound like it went over well. The past sure is a scary place. All of a sudden, Mary butts in the conversation once again. Well, we can definitely say that the shift and abilities have one thing in common. Neither one of them makes one lick of sense. There are no biological or genetic explanations behind why a person is born looking like this or that animal, real or fantastical, it's practically a lottery. That's true. None of my relatives look anything alike, and I can say the same for most of my friends. Well, known exceptions aside, but even then, siblings like Nemrin and Yume are looking nearly identical to one another are extremely rare. That's the thing, to this day, the logic behind this system continues to elude us. And the same can be said about abilities. Like one's outward appearance, it's impossible to predict at birth whether someone has an ability or not. And unless they involve some changes to their user's body, they're not even detectable by modern instruments. They're certainly real, but to our tools they might as well not be. So abilities are an anomaly, even by modern scientific standards. You can't help but wonder how prudent it was to focus on exploring synthetics before abilities or the shift. But maybe that's exactly why the Labrador brought this up to begin with. Is this why you're so interested in them? Both Mary and Natalie smile at your fast deduction. My personal theory is that both of these things don't have a biological explanation, but a metaphysical one. That the logic that dictates whether one is born a cat or a dog with or without ability isn't stored in their brain or DNA, but someplace else entirely. A metaphysical explanation? Something that resides on a plane other than the physical one? Does she truly mean... You're thinking the soul, aren't you? The cat quietly chuckles under her breath as her grin grows bigger and bigger, evidently feeling rather excited by this theory. It'd explain everything, wouldn't it? Including but not limited to... yourself. After all, if a synthetic can retain their ability post-transition or develop a new one altogether, then surely that means that their identity was retained as well. And that would prove once and for all that to synthetics and humans alike that the transition really works. Right on, Isaac. That's precisely it. It's not one of our top priorities right now, but I'm sure you understand how finding a synthetic that can use abilities would boost our research to the next level. Damn. Honestly, I'm surprised. I didn't think you'd catch up this quick with the reasoning of mine, but given how unorthodox the logic behind it is. You caught up with Mary's reasoning rather quickly, true, but that doesn't make this hypothesis of hers any less insane. Trying to connect the shift, abilities, and even your very soul to some metaphysical realm beyond your understanding is something you expected your religious parents to do. Definitely not a real scientist like Mary. Not like this is entirely unordinary from the mad researcher before you. Of all things she's striving to prove, this might not even be the craziest. Not like it even matters at this point. You already did entrust her with your very existence for the sake of this project. If this is what it takes to prove to both yourself and the world that you exist, well, so be it. That said, I imagine that if you're asking about this, you haven't had much luck so far. Yep. From what I've heard, even those who developed abilities before their transition have yet to recover them. Which probably doesn't do wonders for their morale, if I had to guess. Yeah. If I reacted so poorly to losing my natural senses, I can imagine what they must have felt upon realizing they lost another important part of themselves. Hey, we don't know if they lost it yet. Things might just work a little differently between humans and synthetics is all. We're in no rush. We'll figure all this stuff out in no time. We do have eternity to play with after all. That's true indeed. You always forget that your life isn't on a deadline anymore. Things that are unclear now might not stay that way forever. The march of science is an endless one, and you'll have the opportunity to witness it firsthand. You're not sure whether the prospect of that makes you excited or afraid. All of a sudden, the Siamese suddenly sprawls her arms to the sky as though she just awoke. Anyway, that's everything that needed to be said for now. Man, I'm exhausted. Feels like I've been talking for 2 days already. Hey, I did most of the talking at the end there. Besides, even before I took over for you, that was barely 20 minutes. And before that, half an hour at best. Hey, don't act like that's not a big deal. Human throats weren't designed to be used for this long. Just look at Jasper. His speeches last forever, and now he sounds like a villain from a Saturday morning cartoon. You do recall the Drake's voice sounding rather dry the last few times you met him. Does he truly speak as often as the feline claims he does? Nonetheless, it's clear that Mary is done with this topic for the time being. A little bit of a shame. You were hoping that she could answer a few more questions for you. So I take it you need a break? And a long one, too. Maybe we can continue this conversation at a lunch table somewhere, after a bottle of water or two. That could work. Wouldn't be too uncouth to mention that stuff relating to the monster you saw earlier in the day at a lunch table. Might even be able to pass it off as something you read on the video news or something, so she doesn't get suspicious. Plus, you still need to tell her about Nem's request from yesterday. You can't forget to ask her if it's alright to livestream with your friend before the end of the day. Oh, we're going out for lunch? I'm so down for that. I'm practically starving here. Oh, right. Lunch. You got so caught up with your plans you once again forgot what you were just about to do. Well, you know I'm not exactly hungry, but I'd love to join you girls if you'll have me. Of course! I've been looking forward to this ever since meeting you the other day. And so is Mary. The Siamese turns the other way to avoid meeting your gaze, an embarrassed smirk on her face. Now, let's not get too excited. We still need to decide the restaurant we're going to. The restaurant? Huh? Can't say I know many around these parts. Well, you won't be starving for choices, I assure you. This side of town has famous restaurants with backgrounds from all over the world. The French place is always a great choice, but I'm personally feeling very Thai today. Then again, there was an Ethiopian eatery that just opened the other day. So many choices indeed, half of which you never got the chance to try back when you were alive. How are you supposed to choose? The moment you settle on one cuisine, it's as though you're forsaking all the others. Or maybe you're just being overly dramatic. Again, what if we just went and grabbed a pizza instead? A pizza? Wait, that's right! That's what we agreed we'd have on our first meal together, didn't we? Yep, I'm so glad you remember. Like I said, I have been looking forward to this moment. My mom always told me that you can learn so much from someone just by watching how they eat. I really hope you're not going to spend all your time staring at me while your pizza gets cold. She's probably just messing around, your reason, but the thought of someone watching you eat from up close just feels wrong for some reason. Mary, on the other hand, finds Natalie's remark and your response absolutely hilarious. Goodness, you two really are children sometimes. Not like I'm complaining, I always did have a soft spot for kids. Again, with these jokes about your youth, even coming from someone her age, it still feels a little weird for some reason. Either way, at least she seems fine with her choice of location. So, pizza's good with you too? Of course. You should know I don't really mind where I eat so long as the food tastes good. My biggest issue would be if they start throwing a hissy fit as soon as they realize you're with us, but I'm sure we'll find a way to get them to look the other way. That would be bothersome indeed. You can still recall how people were looking at you when you went to Daphne's cafe yesterday. Hopefully Mary's right and things will calm down as soon as people realize she's with you. Well then, if we're all set, we can start heading out. I already found the perfect place too. It's a super sweet Italian place on Eves Avenue called... And we're going to leave off here tonight. Fucking Jasper. Just the fucking Jasper. He's just built different. We gotta end on a cliffhanger. We naturally have to end on a cliffhanger. Anyways, I'm gonna hop off here, but then I'm gonna hop onto a TikTok live to try and make a video. So you should totally go to that if you want to, and not much else can be said, so stay safe, have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow.